This is Let's Talk Business with your hosts, Marc Ebinger and Heather Boehme. Now, here's Marc.
Welcome to Let's Talk Business, a show that highlights and promotes entrepreneurs to learn more about their vision, goals, and marketing strategy. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk about creating the right attitude that you need to be a successful entrepreneur. Notice how I emphasize the word successful. In studio with us today is Sishman Rimpson, also known as Coach Sish, a successful entrepreneur and the author of Defining Moments. Sishman, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here, sir. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the owner of Kruka's Virtual Staffing, a company that specializes in hiring skilled virtual assistants from outside the United States.
And I am your co-host, Heather Boehme, a certified business trainer and coach who focuses on giving businesses the clarity they need to make confident decisions.
And my name's Howie Nestel. I own Sharkmatic Advertising, a cool little ad agency serious about big results, helping entrepreneurs for the last 30 years grow their influence through marketing. And I am happy to co-host with the two of you.
Yeah, it's good to have you in here. This is going to be the new format starting in March, where we're going to have two co-hosts, a host, and we're going to have a guest. And that way we can dig deeper into, the guest on that. I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice.
Quick reminder for our listeners that you guys can follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms, as well as social media, which is really where I focus, is the big six on platforms, including YouTube and YouTube Shorts. You can get to everything by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. Now, if you're going to be in the San Antonio area on Thursday, May 16th, be sure to join us at the next Let's Talk Business Mega Business Mixer. That's a lot of business, and it's definitely mega. We had a great time at the last one. We're expecting between 150 and 200 local business owners and entrepreneurs on site to mix, mingle, and connect with each other to do more business. Heather, you were at the last one. I know you were very engaging. How did you like it?
I am so engaging. It was great. I mean, we definitely had a good crowd, a good mix of industries too. It wasn't all just like a collection of one industry and a few stragglers here and there. It was really a community coming together and connecting. And I know people got good meetups and meetings scheduled from it.
So is that the new name, Mega Mixer?
Yes,
like it.
I'm going to change it to Mega Mixer because that's what it is. It's a mixer's 50 to 75. You know what I mean?
Well, we only wanted 100 people there for the first
yeah,
one.
we were going to limit it and be like, this is,
Yeah, we ended up
elite.
selling 179 tickets and raising $1,790 for the Children's Rehabilitation Institute, CritUSA.org. And that was an idea that came from the co-host. Well, if we're going to charge people, we may as well donate the money to charity.
Yeah,
so
we
we
need to
do well
decide
in
who the
business
next
and we
one's
do good in
going.
community.
Yeah, and the next one's going to be Discovery Camps, which, Howie, I know you've got a special tie-in on. Tell us about that one real quick.
Yeah, so Discovery Camps, discoverycamps.org, is a camp for kids battling cancer. It's been around for 40 years. It's here local. And because the camp has done so well for so many kids who go to the sleepaway summer camp experience every summer, we decided that because there are kids that can't make it to the camp because of their oncology treatments, that we bring the camp experience to them. So now we go to all the local children's hospitals multiple times a year, and we bring the camp to the kids.
Yeah, and we had the owner of the is that
CEO.
the CEO here on the podcast as well. It's a great organization.
Jennifer Cavazos, yeah.
One of the things I love about what Howie brings to the table is connecting us with nonprofits that are legit nonprofits. You know what I mean? They're very careful with their books and their mission, so we appreciate that, Howie. All right, so if you are interested in attending this mixer and really supporting not only a nonprofit, but also supporting yourself and your business and other entrepreneurs, then make sure you go over to the website at satalkradio.com. Pick up your tickets, buy a couple, invite your friends, come and have a good time. We're going to be providing the drinks and the food. I love a mixer where you can go, have a great time, make some connections, and
have a frozen margarita
without having to pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, the ticket pays for itself in the frozen margaritas because you're going to spend minimum $7 anywhere.
Yeah,
buying
pre-pandemic.
a margarita.
Now
it's
they're
more
12.
like 14.
Now it's
12,
more like
14.
14, depending on the area of town you're in. So,
Well, you need the
$10
fancy
ticket.
glass. We don't have the fancy glass.
Get two margaritas. Boom.
Yeah.
Pays for itself.
Sounds like a
It's
good time.
basically free.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Well, and I'm the MC, so it's bound to be a good time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so we pay people to show up.
Yeah.
What? All right. So, anyway, Sishman Rimpson, excited to have you on the show. I know my team found you online, and we've done some digging on you. Love what you're doing out there.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you.
You're the author of the book Defining Moments, CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, and of course a public speaker. Tell me a little bit about your background, and we'll visit some of these other things as well. But tell me how you go from maybe the employee world or whatever you're doing before to owning your own security company, and then the rest of it. Give me about 90 seconds of that.
Sure. Mark, Heather, Howie, thank you guys for having me. First and foremost, I feel privileged anytime I get to come and talk and tell a little about my story. So, I come from humble beginnings. Gary, Indiana, born and raised, 79. I'm a 79 baby, and I was raised during the 80s, and so tough times. If you know anything about Gary, Indiana, in that era, of course, 80s, the ghettos, crack epidemic, all that type of stuff. So
Lots
it wasn't
of murders.
Yep. So it wasn't a fun time, but what saved my life, I tell everybody, man. I had a daughter at 21, and I never felt the weight of responsibility of another person in my life. And within a week, I joined the Air Force when she came. And that changed my life. It took me out from what I knew into a brand new element. I'd never been outside of Indiana in my life. It brought me to San Antonio, Texas 23 years ago, November this year. And so that's really what changed my life, Mark, and opened my life up to this whole other world out from of my little confine, And so the Air Force, oh my God. What can I tell you about the Air Force? I learned discipline. I learned camaraderie. I learned patriotism. I learned that there's a mission out that's bigger than Sishman and what he's going through. And that was really the starting point of the evolution of what you see today in my life and my business. And so, that's the starting point. And from the military, I just became a man of action and a risk taker. And that's how I got into business, and I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
so let's start there. So and then once we get started, I know Heather, she's got questions queued up for you as well. But
sure.
So you were an employee at a security company before,
right?
Decided something, and then ended up going into your own. So take it from there.
Sure. So I was getting out of the military. The easiest thing for me to do at the time, my commander and him thought I was crazy. I had 6 kids when I got out of the military, and I was an E4, right? So I was making about $1,100 a month back then. And so, but I prayed about it, and I couldn't see myself leaving my wife and my children, overseas and leaving her there with all those kids. We had a single daughter, and then a year and a half later, we had triplet sons. 2 years later, we had twin daughters. And so within 3 years, I had 6 kids. And so leaving her and going overseas was not an option. So I got out of the military. I took a job as a security guard on base at Randolph Air Force Base. I went and got my certification to carry a weapon. They were paying $17 an hour back then, which was enough for me, I felt, to take care of my family, right? So I got out of the military. We were able to transition right into that job. And I was doing that job for about a year and a half. I got a call from a company in Michigan, Corporate Security Solutions. This is doing Hurricane Gustav that hit the Houston area. And they called and they said, look, we found your resume online. We see that you're armed. We want to know if you want to come and work contract for FEMA. No, sir, I have a job. I make $17 an hour. I'm a GS4, I think I was. I said, I'm good. They said, well, we're paying $2,000 a week. I said, you don't have to say anything else.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it was in Houston? Of course I'll go.
They said, it's temporary, but you could be working up to 15 weeks. I took a leave of absence, and I went and did that work. I showed up, man, shoes shine. I'm fresh out of the military, right? Uniform looking good. I'm just happy to be able to take care of my family. $2,000 a week. Of course, I was working 7 days. It was the overtime. It was 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Every day, Mark, this gentleman was coming in. He didn't look any special. He was an older white gentleman. His name was Tom. Every morning, I'd get there at 5:30. My shift was 6A to 6P. Tom get there. He'd smoke his cigarette, and we'd have a conversation. I didn't know anything about Tom. 2 weeks in, I get a call from the company that hired me in Michigan, Andy Schaefer, the CFO, and he said, is this Mr. Rimpson? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, this is Andy. You work for us. Okay, I know who you are. I looked online. He said, dude, what are you doing out there? I said, I'm working. I'm doing my job. He said, well, do you know who Tom is? I said, Tom. He said, you see him every morning. He just shot me an email about you. I said, oh, yeah, Tom. I talk to Tom. That's my guy. I talk to him every morning. He said, well, Tom isn't just your guy. He's the head of FEMA security, director of FEMA security across the nation. And he's fallen in love with you. I said, really? Well, he wants you to be the supervisor out there. I said, Andy, I said, I got out of I don't know how to lead people. And he said, well, Sishman, whatever you're doing, all 14 of those guys out there, they need to do too. Mm. And I said, well, I'll give you this much extra a week. I said, well, sign me up.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it was a supervisor position?
So I'm thinking, why don't you lead with that next time?
Yeah.
Right.
Start leading with the money, and then I'll just say
My
yes.
first opportunity to lead, and I went in it like this. I pulled all the guys in. I said, look, guys, I don't have a big head. My uniform looks like this. These people like it. We're all getting paid a buttload of money to do this. Clean up. If you want to get paid, you want to take care of your families, I don't want to have to, let's make this money, guys. And they listened to me. And that was my first leading any type of, and we did so well. I lost none of those guys in the 15 weeks we were there. FEMA loved us. I'm pretty sure they gave more business to CSS. But at the end of the 15 weeks, it was done. I was going to go back to my job. I got a call from those guys, and they said, hey, Sishman, we went for a contract in San Antonio. I know that's where you're from. We just said, hell, let's go for it, see if we can win it. He said, are you familiar with the San Antonio water system? I was like, yeah, that's who I
pay them every month.
He's like, well, we won that contract. And we want to know if you want to come work for us full time. I'm like, I'd rather go back on base because the benefits are better working for the government. I don't want to be a guard in the civilian. And he said, I'm not asking you to be a guard, Sishman. And I said, what are you asking me, Andy? He said, we need a GM in that area. He said, I want you to run it. I still get teary-eyed thinking about it because I didn't ask for any of this, Mark. I didn't set myself up. I didn't have a degree at the time. I was just looking to take care of my family.
Sishman, would you say that you get teary-eyed because somebody believed in you more than you believed in yourself at that time?
Sir. I didn't even know I could do this, Howie. I didn't know it. And that's exactly what I said to Andy.
So you're not knowing it, but you're showing it.
Yes.
That's the deal. And that's where we really connect to that, because people will talk about what they can do all day.
Yeah.
But you were just showing up and doing it.
Yeah.
And people.
Well, did you catch that his shift started at 6 and he showed up at 5:30?
Yeah. Who does that these days?
And actually dress for the job you want.
Definitely
for the
not
job you
Howie.
have.
Not me.
You pay me $2,000.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
you dressed like you were getting paid $2,000 a week.
I'm going to show up,
Right.
And when I told Andy, I said, Andy, I don't know if I could, how many people? He said, well, it's 60 guards for this contract alone. I said, Andy, he said, Sishman, you can do this. He said, you did that down there without us. I said, yeah, man, I'll take it. He said, I figured you'd say that. He said, I got your flight. You're coming to Grand Rapids tomorrow. Call your wife and tell her you're going to be here for about 3 weeks, and we're going to put you in a crash course. I love those guys at CSS, still connected to them to this day, because they flew me down there, guys, and they gave me a crash course. I'm so unpolished. I've been in the military, so I'm a little disciplined. I'm not the guy straight from Gary, Indiana anymore, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't have the confidence. Not that it mattered, but when I walked in that office, I was the only black man in the office, right? And in my brain, that mattered, right? I don't know why. I felt I had this inferiority complex that I wasn't good enough. And so they instantly felt it. They pulled me out of the room. The owner pulled me out of the room, and he said, Sishman, look at me. He said, you can do this. He said, you would not be here if I didn't believe you can do this. And he said, you got it? And I had to take his word because I didn't have it. I had to believe in someone else's belief in me, Howie, before I believed in myself. Does that make sense?
It does.
And they did. They put me through a crash course. I didn't know what direct labor percentages. I had no clue what that. had no clue what overhead was. I didn't know what managing by the number. I didn't know any of that. And so they put me through a crash course. I felt still not, up for the job. But they sent me home. They sent a team with me that was with me for a few weeks. And man, I worked my butt off, brother. I was at work every day. They gave me my salary was $50K. I'll never forget. $50K was my salary. That's all I thought to ask for. I wouldn't dare ask for more because they're giving me this, right? I wouldn't dare ask them for more money. I'll just take this $50K. And I did. I stayed at $50K for almost 2.5 years, which is another lesson. You got to know your worth, right? Because sometime in business, people will, they'll give you what you take, right? So anyway, I did that, man. We came back, and man, I was just so happy to have a job and be a professional. I think I brought a briefcase. I didn't have anything in it, just walking around like I was the guy with my chest stuck out, like I made it. But it was so fun doing those. We got that up and running, man. They taught me how to sell security. I felt like I found my niche. I fell in love with the security industry. Paramilitary, same structure, uniform. I worked with people. That's my calling, is people, encouraging and inspiring people. And I got to do that on a daily basis. And in the first year, we grew that market 176%. I went out and started getting contracts. I found something that I knew about. I learned the security industry. I knew what you had to do per the law. And I became very good at winning contracts. And so became a hot commodity within the company. And I didn't realize, man, until maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, that I was severely underpaid. One of my friends asked me, dude, you got to be making six figures now. And I said, no, man,
Well, especially if you're making rain, if you're bringing in
if
business.
you're bringing in new business.
But, in this world, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you are and what you're willing to tolerate. So if you're willing to tolerate that, that's what you end up with.
Absolutely. My first lesson I learned, and I teach it to people all the time, you only get one shot to make a first impression. If I had made that impression on time, I would not have gotten the opportunity to be with Sauce. Mm-hmm. Second thing is, it's never personal, it's a business. And I learned that because if I would not have asked and talked to my friend, I was scared when my friend said, Sishman, you have got to ask them for more money. And I said, you will not. I will not ask them for more money. They're going to kick me out of here, man. They gave me this. And he said, dude, do you realize what you've done?
You start telling yourself that I'm going to seem ungrateful.
Yes.
And that,
Yes. All of those things, Howie, is what I was telling myself.
Yeah. But sometimes your boss is like, oh, you're out of mind. You're doing a great job. You're happy with what you're getting paid.
Right.
And then you don't say. But if you go up to somebody and you're making rain and they're like, hey, listen, I brought in 1.8 million. Mm-hmm. I'm getting paid 50. I did a little salary.com research. I should be at 120.
Yeah.
What do you think if we step it up and go to 90?
Yeah.
I'm not saying 120, and then give me some incentive to go. But you don't know what you don't know.
Well, how did they react once you got your courage up and asked
So
them?
Crazy. Heather, he wrote the letter for me, the request, because I couldn't do it myself. I'm shaking. I was like, man, and he said, I'm about to press send, Sish. I said, John, I'm about to lose my job, dude. What are you doing, man? And he hit send. I kid you not, 15 minutes later, they came back with an increase to my salary. And he came back with an increase in my salary. I think he took me to 73 or 83, something like that. But just that fast. And it hit me like, dude, you don't have because you didn't open your mouth.
Now, did you go buy him lunch at least? Or?
I did.
Yeah.
That
man just made you.
He's included in the book.
30K.
So you go. You tell your wife.
Oh man,
I want to hear that.
Yeah, at that, you got to remember, both of us had the same mindset. She was scared for me to send it as well, right? But when I told her what happened, I think we prayed and just thanked God for my friend, because we never would have done that, right? And then we started to realize, Mark, wait a minute, these guys have never come here to even check on me. I must be doing a great job.
Yeah, no news is good news sometimes.
No news is good news. So wait a minute. It's some value here in Sishman, right? I got a little weight. I'm carrying a little weight here. And I slowly and surely started to realize my worth, my work ethic, my attitude that I brought. I wasn't a problem, but I was a valued asset to the company.
So how do you go from, okay, you see this in yourself. You saw the deficiency in yourself.
Sure.
You got help.
Yeah.
And how does that lead to where you're at now?
Yeah. So one day Andy showed up. This is 2011, I believe. Andy shows up to the office. They never come here to San Antonio. They didn't have to. We closed the office at 5. Andy showed up at like 4:30 at my office. I had let the staff go. And by this time, I'm rocking and rolling, man. I mean, he shows up. I'm like, Andy, what are you doing here, man? You know, I would have got some fruit or something, you know. You know.
I would have kept the employees in the office.
Yeah, something, you know? He didn't smile. And I could tell his demeanor or something was wrong. I know I was kicking butt, so I knew it wasn't anything. And he's like, let's go to your office. And I said, okay. Go to the office. I sit down. He said, I'm going to cut straight to the chase, Sish. He said, I got good news and bad news. What do you want first? I said, hit me with the bad news. He said, we've sold the company. I said, okay. He said, they picked up all of your guards. At the time, it was 112, I think, guards or something like that. He said, we picked up all of your guards, but they're not going to pick up your position or your contract. And I'm looking, I'm like, so what is that? You know, I won't have a job, Andy? He says at 5 o'clock, everything is final. And he says, Sishman, you will not have a job.
Brutal.
Well, at least he came
Wait.
in person.
That is
In person.
nice that he
to
came
do
in
that,
person.
and he probably had
I surely
to keep
wasn't
it.
thinking that then, but yeah, but
Yeah,
yes.
he probably had to keep it tight, right?
I didn't, that's why I said the second lesson I learned, Mark, was it's not personal.
Right, it's business.
It's business.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it. I'm not gonna lie, man, a tear. How could you do this to me? You know, I felt
Because
such
you
an
take it personally.
emotional connection. Right. This is my first, you know, and I said, well, Andy,
What's the good news?
what the hell's the good?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
What's the good news?
Hope it's a
there?
massive
You got me on
severance
pins and
package.
needles
Good
here.
Lord.
And he said, well, they're going to pick up all your guys. And he said, we're not just going to, you know, you're going to have a severance, you know. And he basically told me, Sishman, cheer up, you know. He said, because it's not personal. It's business. He said, we've been discussing this merger for some time. He said, Sishman, but you're the face here. If I'd have told you that and you'd have jumped ship and now all the guards, he said that could have disrupted the...
Absolutely.
He said, it's not personal. It's business. He said, but I am totally confident that you can get out here, Sishman. And whatever you put your mind to, you can do. At the time, I didn't want to hear that. You know, I didn't receive it. But looking back now as a business owner, I thank God for those guys, man. I thank God for the lessons I learned at CSS. And I was only there for 2.5, 3 years. But it really catapulted, you know. I couldn't see it, but everything I do today, and I've worked for other companies, CSS really set the foundation for. And I owe a lot to Andy Schaefer and Christopher Frayne and his wife, Jamie Frayne. I love those people. And the greatest lessons, and they took care of us. They really did. The severance pay was great. You know, they paid me for 5 months, I think. And I was able to double dip. I did get another job. I got a job, a local company. Mark came and picked me up. Nowhere near as structured as CSS. They didn't have an employee manual, but I took that job because I felt it was a challenge. They couldn't pay me what I was making there. That's fine. But I was with him for 6 years, Willie Ning and Blue Armor Security Services.
So Willie Ning,
yeah.
he and I went to the same police academy.
Sure.
Right, back in 1993.
Yeah.
So we're at a 93A. We just had our 30-year anniversary, but I know Willie very, very well.
Wow.
Yeah, Blue Armor Security.
So Willie gave me a shot, and here's a full circle moment, and Willie will probably laugh when he hears this. I had to hire, with the Saws contract, I had to hire a minority-owned company as a sub. I interviewed several. The last interview was this guy named Willie Ning and his company, Blue Armor Security. I hired him as my sub for the Saws contract. That's how I got to know Willie, right? You never know who you're going to meet going up and coming down, right?
Absolutely.
And so when that happened, Willie called and said, let's go to lunch. He was my sub, and he was like, dude, I'm still with the SAPD. I'm turning down contracts because I can't do both and run it. He said, but I believe with you on board, we can, and that's what Willie and I did. I came on board. I was with Willie for 6 years, and we won practically every major contract in the city,
That's fantastic.
in the state.
Yeah,
I
Willie's
have
a
a
great guy,
question.
by the way. He ran for sheriff, too.
He did.
Years ago.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I thank God for those three people. And I learned a lot from CSS, but I learned the practical application with Blue Armor. We helped put systems in place at Blue Armor. Blue Armor taught me that I can run a business. CSS kind of gave me the confidence, but Blue Armor let me know for sure that I could run a
And
business.
for every entrepreneur listening to this show, make note, because you're going to learn stuff on the way up, on the way down, on the way sideways, that somehow is going to fit together in your jigsaw puzzle of success.
Yes, sir.
And if you're just there to punch the clock and not pay attention and not drink the Kool-Aid,
Come on.
you're going to miss the lesson. Then you're going to find yourself my age, broke, toothless, riding a bicycle,
Toothless
going and
riding-
working at a convenience store.
So what I
Yes,
think
sir.
is interesting, though, yeah, and I definitely want to get to that, but one quick thing, can I ask? Yeah. So you did not grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur, because we find a lot of entrepreneurs that are like, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And this is what I find interesting, because it's like, I'm selling candy bars at the high school, blah, blah, blah. I was not that. Howie was definitely.
Jewish kids selling
Selling-
Christmas cards
Selling
in
Christmas
Laredo.
cards in Laredo. Right? But I wasn't like that. And it doesn't seem like you were either. You didn't grow up thinking, man, I want to own my own company. So when did that mindset shift? You worked for other people for almost a decade
Sure.
before going out on your own.
Sure.
So when did that shift of I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to take that risk.
Right.
And when did you shift from being an employee to an entrepreneur?
Sure. You think about it, Heather. We are taught, all through public school, really, you're taught to become the best employee.
Yep. It's the Ford model.
It's
Yes.
really what you're taught. And so unless you can see it, like Greg Cardone's, like you
Yeah.
were talking earlier, right? Like his child, unless you see it on a daily basis, and I certainly didn't see it. So I had no
You don't even think about it.
ambition at all to be an entrepreneur, right? But I believe in doing things, doing right things, sometimes your purpose is revealed as you go, right? And so it wasn't until really, I didn't even see it at CSS, but it was really working for Willie. Willie and I had a great relationship, and I thank God for Willie, because he allowed me in, and Blue Armor was his baby. That was his baby. And Willie allowed me, he gave me a small piece, and he allowed me to run that business, and it increased my confidence tremendously. Because Willie everybody know Willie's a statesman. He had other ambitions. He was running his business, but I think me being there allowed him to pursue some of the things that he wanted to pursue. And in him pursuing those things, I was running the business. Literally. Every aspect of it, from the guards to payroll to HR to I was running it, startups. And so at 6 years with Willie, I hit a ceiling, and I began to ask myself, why can't I do this for myself? It was a faint question at first, but as I, became disgruntled with some of the things and how things were running, and it's not my company, I can't make the changes, I started to just more and more ask myself, why can't I do this myself? And it got louder, and it got louder, and it got louder, and then I hit a ceiling, and so the smallest things began to aggravate me, and it kind of, I felt myself being pushed out from my own recognition, really, that I can do this myself. And so I left Willie in 2015, 16, and our relationship's it wasn't the greatest when I left. We've since repaired that relationship, and we have mutual respect for one another. I respect Willie so much and what he's accomplished, especially when he went through his health scare. And then my dad died of cancer, and Willie was there for me when my dad died of cancer, because he went through it, and that kind of it kind of got our relationship back on track. But I jumped out, guys, in 2016, and I just thought that everything was gonna go well, and I couldn't get a contract to save my life.
Yeah. Heather, that was a great question. And when you listen to unwilling entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs, that's what it is. When you invited me to speak to your chamber group, I was saying the people that want to start a business, that are becoming entrepreneurs to make more money and have more time, usually are the ones that don't succeed. But the ones that see a problem and a challenge that they can fix the way they want to approach it.
Yes, sir.
And it's not really about money, and it's not really about more time.
Yes, sir.
are the ones that usually persevere.
End up getting it.
Yes, sir.
Well, it sounds like a big problem not getting contracts.
It was huge. And I love what Howie said, Howie. It has never been about money with me. I've never wanted to make, I just believe that God will supply all my needs. I really, really believe that, man. And he has. You can't have triplets and not be a man of faith, bro. It's impossible. You
I
can't.
have 3 kids, and they're not
That's-
triplets. and
So
I'm like,
I think
oh.
that's called over delivery. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to have a kid
Over-deliver.
here, and now we got 3 coming in.
Right, and he's got
Yes.
a total of 6.
And I felt like a failure, guys. I'm going to all these different places, and I have a non-compete, so I can't go after any of the stuff that Willie had. So I'm like, I know this. I've won contracts before. Nobody would give me a chance. So 2016, 2017, I've depleted all my savings now. I'm looking at my kids. My wife's looking at me like, brother, what you doing? And so I had to take a job. 2017, still no contracts. I took a job. I worked at the VA as a logistics guy, making like 30 grand.
That's got to be humbling.
Humbling because nobody from the security industry would touch me. Right. I tried to get back in and nobody would. I felt like I was blackballed a little bit. Did the VA thing. Got a better job at USAA. Went from 30 to 37 at USAA. Answered on the phone selling the insurance or taking care of the insurance. And so went to church one day. It was we were in 2018. This was about October 2018, and the preacher, his message was, I like how he said it. He said, "This is my soil." That was the title of the message. This is my soil. And what he talked about, how you have to get your hands dirty. You got to till the ground. Sometimes you got to get on your knees and dig. You got to, if you want the soil to produce fruit,
Love that.
you've got to get down there and you got to get messy. And it struck a chord in me. And I told my wife, I was like, we had let our licenses expire. I didn't have the money for the insurance. A security company is expensive. Insurance, I didn't have it. And so everything expired. My name back then was Whole Armor Security Services. That was the name of my company back then. 2018, after that service, my wife, at the time, I went through a divorce and I'm now remarried. And she looks at me and she says, "Babe, I believe you can do this." She's like, "Look, we got $2,600 left on our credit card. I know your licenses and insurance is going to cost about $2,000. Just do it." And I looked at her, I said, "Babe, we got $2,600 left. Like, it's more than just licenses. We don't have uniforms. We don't have anything. I lost the name, so I'm gonna have to get a new name." And she said, let's do it. And that woman, her belief in me, I went down and I had to get a new name. I prayed about it. And in my dream, SMR, that's my initials. I was like, man, I can't name my company after. That's kind of, I don't want to do that, right? Sishman Rimpson. And it came to me, safety, management, reliability. It came to me. I went down, the name was not taken. So I got the name, paid for my insurance, got all my certifications. If you are a business, you need your certifications. That's one thing I preach, especially if you're a minority-owned business, woman-owned business, you need those certifications. And so I went and got my license, my insurance, all my certifications, Mark, and I just went to work. I heard God say, "Be still." And so I went back to work. A month passed. I get a call from a guy named Gabe McCain. He's with a company called Atkins Construction, the day before Thanksgiving, November 2018. And Gabe says to me, "Is this, he's at Country Voice. He says, "This it's Mr. Rimpson?" I said, "Yes, sir. This is Mr. Rimpson." I forgot I owned the company. He said, "You own SMR Security?" I was like, "Oh, yes."
Yeah,
I do.
What
Yes,
the
I
hell's
do.
SMR? Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I do. Yes, sir. I hung up on the person on my USA. I just hung up and I went out to the hallway. He says, "Look, man," and this is a full circle moment, guys. Listen to what he said to me. He said, "I just want a contract with Saws." He said, and part of the Saws contract, which I know because I hired Willie, right, is you've got to give a certain percentage of this contract to a minority-owned company.
God works in mysterious ways.
Bro. And he says, "Look, I see that you have your certifications. You're minority-owned, veteran-owned, Your DBE, look that up, entrepreneurs. You need your DBE, your disadvantaged business enterprise. You need that certification because companies need it on their roll, right? He said, I want to know if you can start tomorrow. I know it's Thanksgiving. I know it's probably going to be expensive. He said, but we have 8 sites that we're doing for Saul's locations, and we need 2 guards. We need a guard at each site. I said, Mr. McCain, I would love the opportunity. I said, but I'm going to be very honest with you, sir. I don't have employees. I don't have money to float payroll. I don't even have uniforms, Mr. McCain. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, all right. He said, Mr. Rimpson, I'm going to try this one more time. I have a contract for you.
I know.
I need your certifications. Do you want this contract or not, sir? And I said, yes, I do. He said, all right. He said, what's the rate going to be? Guys, I shot the highest rate out that I knew he would just be like, oh, no. He said, that's fine. He said, listen, can you start tomorrow? And I was like, yes, I can. He said, this is what I want you to do. Come to my office tomorrow. I'll meet you there. He said, pick up a check for the first 2 months. He paid me for the first 2 months before we even worked. That check was about $62,000, man.
Wow.
And that would have been everything you need to build the rest of it
So
out.
ask me how I started my business. I sit here today running a multi-million-dollar security company, Mark, because people believed in me before I believed in myself. That check started SMR Security Services. Now, look, we were out there wrong. I can tell it now. Nobody was licensed that was out there. We didn't have uniforms. I went and bought fluorescent vests for us to wear. It was all deacons from my church and
Nice.
a couple of my cousins.
Yep.
Yeah.
My wife was out there.
Like, what if
Yeah.
a bad guy shows up? Just pray. Pray that nothing happens and call
We were all
911.
out there wrong, but we started that dang on contract. Bro.
All right. How many people started 100% right anyway? I mean, that's not the, just go.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
start.
what I love
just
about
go.
it, though, is I feel like people think that to get into business, you have to have money and this lineup of this pipeline of business, but it's 6 years later.
Yeah,
It's not 20 years later.
That's right.
That he has a multi-million-dollar security
That's right.
business. It's 6.
that's right.
And he went from $2,600 on the credit card. That's not cash.
That's right. That's right.
To multi-million.
Yeah.
And anybody can do it. It's just that grit. And you found your secret sauce, which is when other people believe in you, you step up.
That's right. That's right. And you know, you just got to be, you have to be ready. Like I told you, it's a domino effect. Had I not been in the position, if I didn't have my licenses or my insurance, there's no way
He wouldn't have known about
that
you.
would have come about at all. And so a lot of times it's about making that sacrifice in the beginning, doing what you got to do until you can do what you want to do. And that's what we did. We got the licenses, we got the certs up, and God opened the door.
Well, and now you've got Undefeated Minds. Is that a connection to that
So
secret sauce?
you got about 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Yes,
Tell us about Undefeated
absolutely
Minds and come
it
back
is.
on the show.
Absolutely. Undefeated Minds. It absolutely is that. You know, I tell people all the time, a made-up mind is undefeated. Period. You make up your mind to do bad. You make up your mind to do good. It's undefeated. And so from that premise, Heather, absolutely, I made up my mind to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be an entrepreneur even if I don't look like one yet, right? I'm going to act as if until I am. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did.
Well, Sishman, you have a level of genuineness that is really not found. It's not common. So, it's one of the reasons why you've been so blessed and why so many people believe in you. I mean, we just met. We were on one Zoom call, and I can sense it. And I can feel it. I know 10,000 people on the first name basis, and I don't throw that out very often. So, congrats,
you,
man. You've earned and deserve everything you've gotten.
Thank you so much, sir.
Well, Sishman, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Sure. You can go to IamSishman.com, and my name is spelled S as in Sam, I, S as in Sam, HMAN. IamSishman.com, and my link tree is there. And you can get all my social media connections on IamSishman.com, and you can get in contact with me there.
And don't forget to plug your book.
Yes, Defining Moments. You can also find our book, Defining Moments. It's literally a book about 15 defining moments in my life that have shaped the person that I am today. Oh, yeah.
Some of which you talked about already?
Some of what I talked, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some of what I talked about is in the book and some more. So I would love for you. I didn't write this book to gain money or monetary. I wrote this book to inspire people. And so hopefully you get it and are inspired by it.
All right, love it. All right, as we wrap up the show, a quick reminder to check out our latest podcast and catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. Great job, everybody.
Thank you for having me, sir.
We'll see you on the next one.
Awesome.